Russian military modernization has been set back 18 years. Now, Russia's defense industry strips down fridges for parts. It orders its weapons from the DPRK in violation of multiple resolutions agreed in this chamber under this Russian foreign minister's instruction. Its purchase and use of Iranian drones involves both states violating the Security Council resolution.
This is my video update on this Thursday, midday, January the 25th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the shooting down of the IL-76 Russian transport plane over the Belgorod region, carrying 65 Ukraine POWs, 6 crew members, and 3 Russian military personnel. There are no survivors from this plane crash, which the Russian government has called a terrorist act. And it looks like, according to various sources from Russia, that this plane was brought down by Patriot missiles or German Iris-T missiles. Now, this plane was brought down over the Belgorod region. It was carrying 65 Ukraine POWs, who on that very day were going to be exchanged for Russian POWs. Actually, we're talking about 2 planes that were on their way to the Belgorod region to take part in this prisoner exchange. The first plane was brought down, and the second plane, which was also carrying Ukraine POWs, had to turn back. Here is the statement from the Russian Ministry of Defense. An IL-76 plane crashed in the Belgorod region at around 11 a.m. on January the 24th while on a scheduled flight. It was transporting 65 captive servicemen of the Ukrainian armed forces to the Belgorod region for an exchange, in addition to 6 crew members and 3 accompanying persons. So that is the statement from the Russian Ministry of Defense. Now, Russia called for an emergency session of the UN Security Council in order to discuss this terrorist act. That is what Moscow is claiming this was. And France, which is currently chairing the UN Security Council, they denied this emergency request for a meeting, and the meeting is going to take place today. So yesterday, Russia wanted an emergency session. France denied it, and we're going to have, I guess, a regular session of the UN Security Council to take place today. And why did France deny this emergency session? Well, I think it's pretty obvious that France was ordered to deny the request for an emergency session in the UN Security Council, because it looks like the collective West messaging on the shooting down of this IL-76 is messed up. It is messed up. The U.S. and the collective West, they have been caught on the back foot with this shooting down of the IL-76, which leads me to believe that the U.S. was not expecting this to happen. And they have not been able to get in front of this story. Because usually the United States and the collective West, when something like this occurs, they usually either know something like this is going to occur, or they're very quick. Once something like this does happen, they're very quick to get on top of the story and get the messaging out there as to who's to blame. Usually Russia's to blame, and the collective West, they usually have all of the scripts prepared, the post titles written out. They've notified all of the collective West media, the BBCs, the CNNs. They've notified all of them as to what stories and narratives they're going to put out there. They've talked to big tech, and they've notified big tech as to what narratives and stories they're going to boost and what narratives and stories they're going to suppress. But this time around, it looks like the United States has not been quick on the messaging or the narrative for the shoot down of this IL-76. So something is going on. Something is happening there, and it leads me to believe that the U.S. was really caught flat-footed with the shooting down of this IL-76. This was something that the Biden White House, at least in my opinion, was not anticipating or not prepared for. Anyway, the messaging is all over the place from the collective West with regards to the shooting down of this IL-76. But it looks like we can safely say that this has nothing to do with Russia, that Russia didn't shoot down this IL-76, and that this IL-76 was brought down either by the Ukraine military or by forces aligned with the Ukraine military or aligned with the Ukraine government or Ukraine intel agencies. I think we can safely say that, because the new narrative as to what brought down this IL-76. Well, let me backtrack a bit. When news came out that a Russian transport plane was shot down, Ukraine media was very quick to put up stories and social media posts. For example, Ukrainska Pravda. They were very quick to put out stories that Ukraine had shot down a Russian transport plane. And they probably put these stories out there very quickly in order to announce that the Ukraine military had scored a victory, had scored a win by shooting down a Russian military plane. They got excited, for lack of a better word. They got excited that they thought they had shot down a Russian transport plane. Someone in the Ukraine government or military had shot down this Russian transport plane, and they wanted to get out the story that they brought down this Russian transport plane, and this is a victory. So those were the first posts that came out. Then, when the news started coming out that this plane was carrying 65 Ukrainian POWs who were going to be exchanged for Russian POWs, in other words, these Ukrainian POWs were going to go home to their families and their loved ones. When the news came out that this plane was carrying these POWs, all of these social media posts were scrubbed. They were deleted. The articles that came out in Ukraine media, like in the Kiev Post or the Kiev Independent or Ukrainska Pravda, whatever, all of these Ukraine media publications, they started to amend their stories as well. And the initial news that they were pushing out that the Ukraine military or some forces in Ukraine had shot down a Russian transport plane, all that stuff was deleted. And we got two new narratives that came out to try and explain what happened with this Russian transport plane carrying the Ukraine POWs. The first narrative from the Ukraine media side of things was that this transport plane was brought down because the Ukraine military believed that this plane was carrying S-300 missiles. That's a pretty far-fetched story, isn't it? They thought that this plane carrying POWs was actually carrying Russian weapons. And so it was brought down. That's the one story that they came out with. A second story that started coming out is that this was actually posted on Ukraine intel websites, on the GUR website, was that this plane was brought down because the Russians did not notify the Ukraine military that this plane was carrying POWs. Ukraine POWs. And so in a way, they're kind of trying to push this on Russia. They're trying to say, well, Russia's at fault here. Yes, we did bring down this plane, but we brought this plane down not knowing that it was carrying the 65 POWs. And that was actually posted on the GUR website. So there's the admission that this plane was brought down by Ukraine forces, military or other forces. But they're trying to figure out how to explain this because this looks very, very bad for the Elensky regime, for the Ukraine government. This is a disaster because it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy and a disaster because, once again, these are Ukraine servicemen who were going to go home. So their families are excited that they're going to be exchanged. They're ready to see the people that they love. And then they get the news that their plane was shot down by their very own government or forces connected to their government or something. Something happened, and it wasn't Russia. This is a nightmare for the Elensky regime. Actually, Elensky came out with a statement yesterday, and he said that he pretty much said he doesn't know what happened, and he's calling for an investigation. He said he's called in Zaluzhny and Budanov and other top-level Ukraine officials to try and get to the bottom of this, and he's calling for an investigation. So the collective West, Ukraine, their messaging, which is usually the strong point, that's their strong point, is the information war and their messaging. In this instance, their messaging is a complete freaking mess, and they can't get their stories sorted out. So most likely, and I'll give you what I believe most likely happened, and then I'll give you a couple of alternative theories, alternative narratives as to what might have possibly happened to this IL-76. But the most likely scenario, in my opinion, is that the Ukraine military, the Elensky regime, they shot down this plane. They, for some reason, I mean, they knew there was going to be a POW exchange, and Russia came out with a statement and said that the Ukraine military, obviously they knew there was going to be a POW exchange. I mean, it was going to happen that very day. So they knew there was going to be a POW exchange. Both Ukraine and Russia knew this. But for I don't know, maybe a communication reason, something happened with communication. And maybe there was a part of the Ukraine military that shot down this plane, not knowing that there was going to be a prisoner exchange taking place that day. Or there was some miscommunication or something happened within the ranks of the Ukraine military, and they wanted to shoot down a Russian plane, and they saw this Russian transport plane, and they shot it down. And then they realized, crap, this is the plane that was carrying the POWs. So that's the most likely scenario. They wanted to score a win because things are going so bad for the Ukraine military, and they wanted to score a W. They saw the transport plane. They shot it down. Maybe it's an easy target for them. They shot it down, thinking that the media is going to pick this up and this is going to be broadcast as a Ukraine victory. And look at us, we shot down a Russian transport plane over Belgorod. And then they realized that this was the plane carrying the POWs, and they were like, oh, crap. So that's the most likely scenario. Let me give you two other scenarios. And maybe you guys have more scenarios. Put them down in the comments down below. But maybe this was an inside job. You know, we've been talking a lot on this channel and on the Duran about all of the palace intrigue, the power struggles that are happening in Kiev. Maybe this was some forces in the military. Maybe this was the intel agencies, Budanov and these guys, and they brought down this transport plane, knowing that this would put Elensky in a very difficult position. And it has put Elensky in a very difficult position. So maybe this was some sort of inside job in order to bring down the Elensky government, or to help bring down the Elensky government. Because these are Ukraine POWs going home. And the plane was shot down. So this is a big mess for Elensky. So maybe that explains what happened. And another scenario which I was thinking about is that perhaps this is connected to the war within a war between Russia and the foreign mercenaries. I imagine that that you would need some pretty good military capabilities to take down this transport plane. Maybe I could be wrong about that, but it wouldn't surprise me if some very highly trained mercenaries took down this transport plane, perhaps in retaliation for Russia's annihilation of the mercenaries in Kharkov. So maybe this is connected to this Russian collective West mercenary war that is taking place at the moment. That could also explain this. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on from what is really it really is a tragedy what happened, and this is going to severely weaken Elensky. So let's now move on to the UK military and a speech from the chief of the General Staff of the UK, Mr. Sanders. I believe his name is Larry Sanders, not to be confused with KFC's Colonel Sanders. But the chief of the General Staff, he said in a speech at the International Armored Vehicles Conference in London that the UK must urgently expand the size of the army to around 120,000 within 3 years, almost doubling the force from its current strength of just under 76,000. But this wasn't the controversial part of his speech, which is gaining a lot of media attention. It's when he said that the UK needs to create a citizen army. And a lot of people took that statement as meaning that the UK needs to conscript people from the general population into the military, all of this in order to prepare for a war with Russia in the near future. The BBC, they are running with the title, Britain Must Train Citizen Army, Military Chief Warns. The Guardian, they have an article with the title, Army Chief Says People of UK Are Pre-War Generation Who Must Be Ready to Fight Russia. Ministry of Defense clarifies it has no plans for conscription after General Sir Patrick Sanders says UK should take steps to place society on war footing. I said Larry Sanders. Isn't Larry Sanders? Larry Sanders. That name sounds familiar. I think he's a Hollywood scriptwriter or a comedian. I don't know. It's Patrick Sanders. It's General Sir Patrick Sanders. Not to be confused with Larry Sanders, and not to be confused with the legend that is KFC Colonel Sanders. Anyway, Rishi Sunak also came out with a statement and said that there's not going to be any type of mobilization or general conscription of the UK population. But look, he said it. He said it that it's time to build a citizen army. An interesting statement from this general. Let's see. He said this is not enough, increasing the UK military from 76,000 to 120,000. He said is not enough, adding that Britain must start a whole-of-nation undertaking to train and equip a citizen army that could be activated in the event of a hypothetical war with Russia. The general cited Sweden as an example for the UK to follow, hailing the Nordic nation of just over 10 million people for taking preparatory steps to placing its society on a war footing. Sweden has been approved to join NATO, announced plans earlier this month to reintroduce civil conscription, having reinstated military conscription in 2017. Ukraine brutally illustrates that regular armies start wars. Citizen armies win them, Sanders declared. Wow. Got to follow the Sweden model. Why do the globalists, why do they always use Sweden as a model? Can someone answer me that question? Why do these guys always start with Sweden? It's either Sweden, Canada, and Australia. Those are the three countries that they always test things out on, it seems. When it comes to Europe, it's always Sweden. But anyway, that is what Patrick Sanders said in his statement. Sunak's office, they issued a statement after this speech, and they said the British military has a proud tradition of being a voluntary force. There are no plans to change that, a spokesman for the Prime Minister said. Engaging in hypothetical wars, the spokesman added, was not helpful. So here's a tweet from Count Dankula, a Twitter X post. So after a decade of mass immigration, eroding human rights, lockdowns that destroyed livelihoods, and an engineered housing cost of living crisis, the state thinks it can force people to die to protect all those terrible things. LMAO, good luck with that. And in his post, he has a screen grab from an LBC article. British public will be called up to fight if the UK goes to war because military is too small, Army Chief warns. So let's move on now. He's Count Dankula is absolutely right, by the way. 100% right with that Twitter X post. Let's move on now to what is happening in Texas, the great state of Texas. And they are facing off against the Biden White House. This has to do with the border, the southern border. Now, Texas, they have been trying to create barriers, to put up barbed wire and create barriers in order to protect the southern border. And the Supreme Court, the other day, they ruled that an injunction was to be removed, which prevented the Biden White House from removing the barbed wire, the sea wire that Texas was putting in place in order to protect the southern border. I hope I have that correct. I hope I'm explaining this correctly. But so the Supreme Court, they removed this injunction and they basically signaled to the Biden White House, or at least the ruling was that the Biden White House, if they want to, they can go to Texas and they can remove the sea wire, the barbed wire, which Texas, the National Guard of Texas, is putting in place in order to protect the southern border. And the governor of Texas, Abbott, he issued a statement yesterday, and he said that that Texas is going to continue to to put up these fortifications, this barbed wire, this sea wire, in order to stop the flood of migrants, of immigrants passing through the southern border. The Texas National Guard is going to continue to secure the southern border. And when this statement came out, we had many Democrats, including Castro, who is the representative for Texas, and he came out and he called on Biden upon learning that the Texas National Guard is going to continue to build these fortifications. He called on the Biden White House to take over control of the Texas National Guard and to prevent Abbott from securing the southern border. So that's where we are with this story. And many governors in Republican states and red states, they actually came out in support of Abbott's statement, saying that Texas is going to continue to protect the southern border and the National Guard is going to continue to place the fencing and this barbed wire in the southern border in order to prevent the immigration from coming over into the United States and into Texas. And Abbott got a whole lot of support from many governors in many red states. DeSantis in Florida, Youngkin in Virginia, Kevin Stitt in Oklahoma, Kristi Noem in South Dakota, Brian Kemp in Georgia, Greg Gianforte of Montana, and perhaps many more. By the time this video goes up, there'll probably be more governors in red states showing support for this statement from Texas Governor Abbott. So the question is, what does the Biden White House do now? The Supreme Court has said that the Biden White House, if they want to, they can go to Texas and they can remove this fencing. Abbott said that he's not going to stop putting up this fencing. And you have various Democrats calling on Biden to take control of Texas's National Guard. What does Biden do? That's my question to all of you. What does Biden do? If he does nothing, then he loses face. The Biden White House. The Biden White House loses face. It ends up looking weak. It looks like it backed down to Texas. If he does something and he intervenes, then what happens? It's an interesting question that I'm throwing out to all of you guys, and especially to people watching this from Texas, living in Texas. What happens next? This is an incredible story to follow, and I'm very, very interested to see what the Biden White House does. Abbott, good on Abbott. You know, he's doing what he needs to do in order to look after the interests of his state. And the fact that you're seeing so much support from other governors, this is big news. This is really, really big news. We'll see. We'll see what the Biden White House does. So let me see here. Let's do one more story, and then we'll make our way to the clown world portion of this video. Let's go back to the Red Sea. Let's go back to the Red Sea and what is happening with another mini conflict that is brewing. Could become a big conflict, but right now it seems to be a mini conflict. Some may even say that this is some sort of a naval conflict, a naval war that is shaping up in the Red Sea between Yemen and the United States and the UK. Operation, what is it called? OPG, Operation Protective Guardian. You're down with OPG, Operation Protective Guardian. That was the brainchild of Lloyd Austin. Lloyd Austin. Anyway, OPG is not working. It looks like Yemen is not down with OPG, that's for sure. And yeah, and they launched missiles again at yesterday at U.S. Warships, and there were two Maersk cargo ships under the protective umbrella of U.S. warships that were going to pass through the Red Sea. The Houthis claim that they shot missiles at these U.S. warships in order to prevent these Maersk ships from crossing through the Red Sea. And the Houthis claim that these missiles were successful in hitting their targets and preventing the ships from passing through the Red Sea. That is what the Houthis claim. The Pentagon, they have come out with a statement, and they claim that 3 missiles were fired, 2 missiles were shot down by air defense, and 1 missile landed in the waters close to these ships. But the Pentagon and Maersk, they had to admit that the Maersk ships, these cargo vessels, had to turn back, had to retreat. So even if the missiles, even if what the Houthis are saying in their statement is false, the missiles did not score a hit on these U.S. warships. Even if that's false, and the missiles did land, were shot down or landed in the waters, this is still a victory for Yemen, because at the end of the day, they prevented these cargo vessels from passing through the Red Sea. Even with U.S. warship protection, even with the protection of the United States Navy, the most powerful Navy in the world, even with that protective umbrella, they had to turn back. And Maersk came out with a statement and said, for the time being, no cargo vessels, none of our ships are going to be passing through the Red Sea because of this incident. So even if the Pentagon is right and what they're saying is true, and they did shoot down these missiles, in a way, the Houthis did score a win because there was a retreat. So that is the situation in the Red Sea. And things are so bad for the United States and the UK in the Red Sea that Reuters is reporting that the Biden White House has now reached out to China for help. I did a video a couple of days ago, and I think in that video I said that the Biden White House has there is no plan, there is no strategy in Operation Protective Guardian. And sure enough, there is no strategy, because Reuters is saying that the U.S. asks China to urge Iran to curb Red Sea attacks by the Houthis. This is a post from Reuters, and I think they're citing a Financial Times report. You see it up on your screen right now. So is the plan to run to China for help? Really? Is that the plan? China, please help us. Talk to Iran so that you can get the Houthis, Yemen, to stop attacking us? Is that really the strategy? Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. And one more story connected to what's going on in the Middle East. And that has to do with the reports from various media outlets claiming that the U.S. is about to pull out of Syria, that the Biden White House is going to leave Syria finally. They've been occupying the northeast part of Syria, I believe the northeast part of Syria illegally. And there were reports yesterday that the Biden White House is preparing to pull out of Syria. And now, today, we got reports from the Pentagon saying that the U.S. has no plans to leave Syria. So what do I think is happening here? I think that the media got wind of some sort of chatter, some discussions, given all of the attacks that have been taking place on Iraqi air bases and Syrian bases, that that the U.S. is indeed discussing, maybe not planning yet, but they're discussing. They're floating out the idea of at least leaving Syria because they're very exposed in Syria, and the U.S. just doesn't have the capabilities of dealing with everything that's happening. All these wars, all these conflicts, the U.S. military must be overstretched. And so they have to cut back from somewhere. And I bet you the media, especially the neocon media, got wind of these discussions. And maybe they're not at a planning phase. Maybe these are just ideas being floated around. And the media got ahead of this story. And they put out the posts, the reports saying that the U.S. is pulling out of Syria in order to get the Pentagon to come out with a statement and say we're not pulling out of Syria, because the neocon media, they don't want the U.S. to pull out of Syria. So they must have heard something and they said, whoa, we got to put a stop to this discussion. So let's put out a story that the U.S. is about to abandon Syria and what a disaster this is going to be. And so they got the statement from the Pentagon saying, no, we're not pulling out of Syria. Even though the U.S. should pull out of their illegal occupation of Syria. Yes, they should. Anyway, what else? Before I get to my clown world, how am I doing on time? All right, let's wrap this video up. An update on Sweden entering NATO. Yesterday, I reported how the Turkish parliament has said that Sweden can enter NATO. And yesterday, we got word that Orbán spoke with Stoltenberg, and he said that Hungary is also in support of Sweden entering NATO. So there you have it. This is the consolation prize for a catastrophic failed Project Ukraine for NATO. It's a business. NATO is a business. And so they're going to score a huge L, a huge loss in Ukraine. We're talking a massive, devastating loss in Ukraine. And so they have to get something in order to try and balance it out. So the narrative is going to be, we lost Ukraine, but look, we gained Finland and Sweden. And maybe even Moldova in the future. Who knows? Who knows? Though the Russians are going to have something to say about that one. But that's what they're going to say. We lost one, but we gained two. So all is good for the business that is NATO, for NATO Inc. That's what's going on here. What else? An update on Jeff DeWitt, the Arizona GOP chair, who was caught on audio allegedly bribing Kari Lake. He has resigned from his position as Arizona GOP chair, though he says that the audio was taken out of context. Okay. This tweet from Darren J. Beatty, who says, "Who are the money men back east? Time to spill the beans." I said the same thing in my video yesterday. Who are these people back east that DeWitt was talking about when he was allegedly trying to bribe Kari Lake? Who are these people back east trying to get Kari Lake to pause her political career? Time to name names, I agree. And it looks like Nikki Haley, she is toast. Stick a fork in her. She is done because her number one sponsor, one of her main donors, Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, it looks like he is pulling out of Project Nikki. According to CNBC, Hoffman gave $250,000 to a pro-Haley super PAC last year, but he has no immediate plans to help her again. And Hoffman, he suffers from a very severe case of Trump derangement syndrome, a very, very severe case of TDS. And he pretty much throws money at anyone or anything that he believes can bring down Trump. I mean, this guy's suffering from a very bad case of TDS, but he's a billionaire because of LinkedIn. And so, he throws around money to various anti-Trump movements, causes, people, whatever. So he's pulling out of Project Nikki. So without Hoffman, Nikki Haley is toast. She is done. Anyway, let's do a clown world and we will wrap this video up. Annalena Baerbock, the German foreign minister, she was on her way to Djibouti on an official visit, and her plane was going to fly over Eritrea to get to Djibouti. And Eritrea, they denied Nikki Haley access to their airspace. And Nikki Haley, Annalena Baerbock, what am I saying? It could be Nikki Haley, Annalena Baerbock, they're all the same. Anyway, Annalena Baerbock, her plane was denied access to Eritrea airspace, and so the German foreign minister had to land the plane in Saudi Arabia. According to media reports, the German foreign ministry did not obtain a permit for the plane to fly over Eritrea. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock's trip to Djibouti in East Africa has been delayed because her government jet failed to receive permission to fly over Eritrea. Baerbock's plane was instead diverted to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. So, karma. This is karma at work, right? This is karma at work. Because wasn't it the Russian foreign ministry and the plane that was carrying Maria Zakharova, I believe? I'm not sure if the plane was carrying Lavrov as well, but it was a Russian foreign ministry plane that was on its way. I believe it was on its way to Skopje, to North Macedonia, for some sort of an event or a meeting. And it was going to fly over Bulgaria, and Bulgaria denied access of its airspace to the Russian foreign ministry, and the plane had to be diverted to fly over Greece or something like that. And then, all of Europe was laughing, right? All of the EU and Europe was laughing, and Bulgaria, took its orders and denied airspace access to the Russian plane. And well, this is karma. This is karma coming back at Annalena Baerbock and the German foreign ministry. So that is the clown world. That is the video, theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. 15% off all t-shirts. Take care.